This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health or lifestyle changes. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Her podcast, your go-to space for real talk, inspiration, and laughter as we navigate life as a woman. Let's dive in.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Happy Healthy Her podcast, a show for women over 40 who are interested in natural healing tools to navigate this wild chapter of life. Everything from what should be on your plate to getting your sex life back and all the wonderfully awkward things in between is what we cover on this show. All right. So, and obviously nobody warned us about all these wonderful things. So we like to talk about them. So, hey there, I am Tracy Mail, a health empowerment coach. I help high achieving, stressed out people calm their nervous system, balance their hormones, and ditch the I'm just getting older narrative so they can finally feel like themselves again. I will be your host for today, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely friends and co-hosts, Cynthia Penner and Lorraine Keim. Ladies, you can please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Penner, a menopause health coach and author of the Menopause Map book series. And I also host a brand new The Menopause Map Minute podcast and YouTube channel. I guide women through the wonderful, sometimes wild world of menopause. My focus is helping women navigate this season of life with confidence through knowledge of what the heck is going on in her body and her hormones.
Nice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lorraine Keim. I am your empowerment and mindset wellness coach. And I guide women to live more authentically through self-discovery and self-healing.
Nice. Well, thank you. Welcome, welcome. So, all excited today. We are joined by Esther Yunkin. Is that how you say that? Sorry, I should have asked ahead of time. A registered nurse with more than 25 years of experience in both emergency medicine and holistic health. After 17 years in the ER, she saw firsthand how many women were falling through the cracks, especially those dealing with thyroid and autoimmune symptoms with no real answers. So Esther now helps exhausted women, like we all, right, with Hashimoto's regain their energy, clarity, and calm through simple, sustainable, holistic strategies. She's the host of the Health and Hashimoto's podcast and the creator of the Holistic Hashimoto's program. Given that I was just diagnosed a few months ago with Hashimoto's, and this is now my passion project as well, I'm so very excited to have this conversation. So welcome to the show, Esther.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Good. Cool. Thank you. So you spent over a decade in emergency nursing before shifting to holistic health and autoimmune support. So tell us more about you and what made you move from treating emergencies to helping women prevent those emergencies in the first place.
So I grew up in Minnesota, and after college, I decided Minnesota did not have enough snow. So I went up to Alaska and loved it up there. And I really did everything in Alaska. It was so fun. We got to, it was one clinic with a doctor in an area the size of Ohio. So lots and lots of area. And so we did everything. I did the clinic, I did the inpatient, I did the ER. I mean, it was really 1 to 2 nurses in the building. Got to do everything. And in that setting, I got to talk to people about prevention and, doing the stuff in their clinic visit. And then we also saw people in the ER. And that was kind of how I feel like medicine should be. Like you go and you get the treatment that you need, whether it's clinic or ER or urgent care. Well, I moved down to the lower 48 and I worked at a trauma 2 center and a level 2 trauma center. and you got to see how broken things were. And people come in for emergencies, which is why we are there in the ER. We're there to save lives after accidents, after traumas, when somebody is critically ill, a heart attack or a stroke. But we also saw so many people who were there time after time after time for chronic things, and we weren't making a difference in their life. And that is frustrating. It's very frustrating when you feel like you're just putting a band-aid on something that's chronic. And after a while, I just got fed up and I was like, I'm going back to school. I did look at nurse practitioner school, and I had that time learned about functional medicine. It was just starting. And I went back for holistic health education because I was like, I don't want to pay back the loans for nurse practitioner. I don't want to have to tie myself to a clinic and work for another decade. I want some freedom. And so I'm going to do this. And that's kind of how I started out doing this holistic health education as a nurse.
Love that.
Wow.
So cool.
Esther, your transition from ER to holistic care, that resonates with me because, as we were saying before we hit record, I have been dealing with a low thyroid for over 20 years, long before I ever knew what Hashimoto's, that might have been the real root behind it. Like, I was just even figuring this out now doing the research for this show. So definitely going back to my doctor. But so back then, no one explained autoimmune anything. They handed me my Synthroid and sent me on my way for the last 20 years. My dosage has gone up from 50 to now 125 or 150. And recently my doctor just said, well, I think that's too much. Just don't take it on Sundays. Like, take it the other 6 days of the week. I'm okay. So looking back, I can see how many symptoms were brushed off or minimalized. And I know a lot of women listening are living with the exact same story: exhausted, inflamed, mental fog, told it's stress or aging, or, the famous just being a woman. So I'm curious, when you were in the ER, did you see that same pattern, what you're saying with the chronic, women showing up with crisis level symptoms, even though the warning signs had been there for years?
I don't really think I saw it in the ER because women just accept that as normal, which is so sad, right?
Yeah.
But we're just told that it is how it is and that you need to adjust. And then so women start, drinking lots of coffee and being really hard on themselves, thinking I'm just not enough. And really that's wrong. It's your thyroid is not working correctly, or something is not working. But your body is designed to heal. So let's help address that so that you can get back to feeling like yourself. So to answer your question, I probably did see a lot of women in that situation, but it wasn't diagnosed. It wasn't recognized. You were just, you're just told to push on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sad. So sad.
Wow. Well, I believe my mom had some thyroid issues. For some reason, I thought it was the other way. And of course, I'm going to probably get this wrong, but I think it was hyperthyroidism. And I think she took medication for it. I don't remember a whole lot of it. I don't have it that I know of. But as we've been talking, the doctors don't necessarily tell you these things. They don't prep you for them. They don't offer these kinds of tests. And if they do offer the test, so my first question is about if they test for my thyroid and everything seems fine, one, is it really fine? Is that all they need to do? Is that one test that says you're in the normal range, you're good? And my follow-up question to that is, now that you're in the holistic arena and you've also worked in what I'm going to call the traditional healthcare route, medicine route, do you now have suggestions as to what we need done in the traditional healthcare system that can close the gap, or at least narrow the gap, between this holistic, whole body type of healing versus that assembly line in and out lifeguard type of system?
Right. So to answer the first question with the labs, most doctors will run a TSH as part of routine labs. So the TSH is I could look at it like a light switch, and it is your brain turning the light switch on. Like, oh, we need more energy today. We need more light. Let's turn that on. Well, you all know that when the power goes off, you flip that switch a couple times to see if it's working. That's what your brain is doing when the power goes off, when your thyroid is not producing enough thyroid hormone. Your brain is like flicking that switch so many times, like, hey, does this work? And so that's when you're going to see your TSH go up. So if your TSH is elevated, it's because your brain is saying, hey, I need more. Like, please give me more. It's flipping that light switch. So the doctor is going to look for your TSH, and then they're probably going to compare it to what's considered normal. Well, what we know is that normal range was created from a huge population, which included sick people. So if you're creating your normals based off of people who have thyroids that are not producing enough, then that normal is not going to be adequate.
No.
Oh my
So,
gosh. I did
right?
not
So
know
there's
that.
Drives me nuts.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of different areas we can go with just that one question.
Yeah.
So number one, is the TSH enough? No, it's not. We need more. And then number two, if your TSH comes back as quote normal, you need to go onto the internet and type in what are functional medicine ranges.
Yes.
Or if you use AI, you can just go into AI and you can say, here are my labs. Please compare them to functional medicine ranges. And AI will pull it up. And sometimes AI hallucinates, so double check it. But I have found that in this case, AI has been pretty
Yeah.
good. And you'll put in a TSH and make sure you say functional medicine ranges, and it will tell you, your TSH should be for functional between 1.5 and 3, whereas for traditional medicine, it's a wider range. So that is to answer the TSH question. And then I recommend that everybody gets some other thyroid medication or labs. You want to get your thyroid antibodies checked at a minimum, because your thyroid antibodies, that's an indication that your body is attacking your thyroid, and those can start to be elevated 10 to 15 years before you have symptoms. And then after you get symptoms, it takes the average woman 4 more years to get a diagnosis, to get an answer. And in that time, she usually sees 4 different providers. So when somebody goes through puberty, a female goes through puberty, I would like to see the antibodies, because we know that Hashimoto's typically presents during the 3 Ps: puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause. So if we check the antibody levels during those 3 times, when a girl goes through puberty and then pregnancy and then perimenopause, that's going to give us, it's going to illuminate a lot of answers before we're starting, like, what is going on? Right?
Exactly. Love that. And I think when you talk about the ranges too, my go-to with that is because it's way down here and it's way up here, if you're not in the middle, you're not okay. If you're at the higher end, there's something wrong. And that was my story, like all of my life. I absolutely had like high blood sugars, insulin resistance, all that stuff, but I was always in the range. And so I never ever got any help. And I didn't know back then, right? We know a lot more now. I want to move into today's theme, because this is where so many women get stuck. Hashimoto's doesn't just show up out of nowhere, right? It's and getting a diagnosis, as we've talked about, can be extremely tricky. So there are patterns and root causes that get missed all the time. With an autoimmunity, if it's genetic, it can show up differently in every family member, which I think is pretty crazy, right? But you can see how women, if you do have that if you know it's a genetic thing, and you go to the doctor and like, oh well, yeah, it's in your genes, you're just going to have it, you're going to get that automatically, that kind of turns off that hope that there's another way, or that this is my fate, I'm going to have it, I'm screwed, pretty much, right? And so I hate that. Yeah, so while genetics is like the loaded gun, lifestyle and environment actually pull the trigger, right? So, Esther, in your experience, what are the biggest triggers of Hashimoto's and what actually drives it?
Yeah, good question. So everybody, like you said, everybody has a genetic component. There's also always a gut component. So I look at that as one of the main root causes. And then the triggers, I have identified about 8 most common triggers. And some of them are super simple to address, like vitamin D. Low vitamin D is a trigger for autoimmune problems, including Hashimoto's. And all you have to do for that one is get a lab test. You can even get it through the mail. I have ordered on Full Script. I don't know if you guys have a Full Script account for your listeners. It's kind of like the Amazon of good quality supplements.
Yeah.
And so it's $40, I think. You just order that. It comes through the mail. You poke your finger, send it in, and then back in your email, you get the results. Super, super simple. And then since vitamin D is just a vitamin over the counter, you can look at the information. I never want anybody to do anything blindly. Look at the information, educate yourself. And from everything that I have read, I know that I want my levels for vitamin D to be between 80 and 100. And so to get there, I take a vitamin D3 with K2, every day. I actually moved to a bigger dose. So I take it 5 out of the 7 days of the week.
Nice.
And my level is great. So that is one trigger that's super, super common because most of us don't spend enough time outside. But where I live, anywhere north of Chicago, there's a line, latitude or longitude. If you live north of that, you could be outside all daylight long in the winter, butt naked, and you would not get enough vitamin D from the sun.
Wow. He would freeze to death.
You absolutely would.
Yeah.
But even in the summer, a lot of people don't make enough vitamin D from sun exposure. So that's a super simple one to say, hey, you know what? I was born in the northern states or in Canada, and I have an inside job. So probably my vitamin D is a trigger. Let's check that and let's address that. That's super, super simple. Other ones are going to be more complex, like stress. Stress is one of the biggest root causes. And, every person gets to look at their situation, at their life, at what's going on and say, how can I decrease my stress? Are there things that I can take out of my life? Endless social media scrolling. That's a stressor. Can I cut that down? I'm not advocating for cutting people out of your life. I feel like we need community. There are some stressful people. So maybe, you need to work on boundaries or on saying no. Or maybe you need to develop some practices of diaphragmatic breathing so that you can reset your nervous system. When you're stressed, take a deep breath from your belly. Do it again. Relax your neck, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, your reset, and lower your stress response. So yes, stress is a huge root cause and it surrounds us every day, but there are things we can do to lower it and to manage it.
Nice.
Well, as a
Sorry.
woman of color, I know that getting vitamin D is especially difficult for us. Even if we live in a sunny environment, we tend not to get enough vitamin D, and it's a lot harder for us to just get it from the sun. So I understand that completely. And that could be one thing that we really need to stay on top of. Another thing is I want to speak to the women in the audience who, like me, at least for now, who don't have Hashimoto's that they know of. And maybe you can explain what Hashimoto's is. And if you're talking about the root causes and everything, but are there things that women who do not have it, what can they do? What can they be on the lookout for? Are there other ways of making yourself more susceptible to possibly down the road getting this? And so we want to stay ahead of it, what kind of habits, what to look out for, things of that nature.
Sure. So I guess we should have started with what is Hashimoto's. Yeah. So at the base of your neck, like in the front, you have your thyroid. And your thyroid is butterfly shaped, it's pretty small, and it produces a hormone called T4. which is converted to T3 in your body. T3 is like the ignition switch for your cells. It's turning your cell on, saying, okay, time to do your job. If your cell isn't doing your job, then everything could be impacted. If that's a brain cell, if it's a gut cell, if it's a heart cell, every cell has its own job, and every single cell in the body needs that ignition switch. So Hashimoto's is not a thyroid condition. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where your immune system is attacking your thyroid. There are a lot of different autoimmune conditions. They all get their name from where they attack. So we have Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune part, and then we have the attack on the thyroid and the thyroid's response. So the thyroid typically goes low, cannot produce enough thyroid if you have Hashimoto's. So a diagnosis, like Cynthia said, is usually hypothyroid. Usually women will go to their doctor, they'll check the TSH, and they'll say, you have hypothyroidism. They will not check for antibodies. They will not check for T3 levels to see if your body is converting that T4 to T3. They just say, here's your TSH. Here's a prescription for levothyroxine. Come back. We're going to recheck your labs and we're going to readjust your medication for the rest of your life. Yep. So that is what Hashimoto's is. As far as what we can do, whether you know you have it or whether you don't want it, let's look at keeping our cells healthy. That's like number one. Everything goes back to the cellular level. Mm-hmm. So, environmental toxins, that's another trigger. But we've all heard, like, we can clean up our diet, get the toxins out of our diet, clean up our skincare. Like the average woman, I think, is putting on over 100 different chemicals on her face every single morning. How many of those, because you put on your lotion, your moisturizer, and it's got, an ingredient list 1.5 inches long of that teeny tiny font. Like we're putting on so many things. And how many of those are endocrine disruptors? Endocrine is just a fancy name for hormone. Your thyroid is a hormone. So what can you do every single day to keep your cells healthy? There is a theory that all of the endocrine disruptors and the environmental toxins can start to accumulate in the thyroid. And that is one reason why the autoimmune condition attacks the thyroid, because your immune system actually knows there's something in here that shouldn't be here. That has not been proven. It is one hypothesis that I think sounds credible. But we can all do things to clean up the environment around us and within us. There's a lot of things like that, but it really all goes down to the basics. Like when I, give a webinar or talk, sometimes people are like, well, that's kind of all things I had heard before. Well, yeah,
because it's simple, right?
Right? We all need sleep. Like I can't make this complicated. You need sleep to be able to be healthy. You need fruits and vegetables and a good diet and, less processed foods in order to have health. Like everything that you've heard, it probably relates to staying healthy, for Hashimoto's, just like it does for everything else, because it all comes back to the cell and we need to keep the cells healthy.
Oh, thank you.
Just quick on that before you go,
go
Cynthia. What I heard, because the thyroid resembles the gluten molecule. And so if you have a gluten sensitivity or issue, right, your body is always attacking that. And I don't eat anything like that anymore. But again, it recognized the thyroid as that foreign. So that could have been why it attacked in my system. So just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, it's called molecular mimicry.
Yes.
So if your body knows, if your immune system knows, hey, the thyroid, we're already attacking the thyroid, and then you're eating a lot of gluten, and the body is like, oh, hey, here's a whole bunch of thyroid that we need to attack. Well, no, it's actually gluten, but it acts as a mimic, and so it can cause problems. And at least 80% of people who have thyroid problems do much better off of gluten.
Yes. Yep.
Really?
100%.
Yeah, I've not heard that.
Oh, there you go.
But I do have a question. Like when I saw the doctor where I live now, one thing he said was when he looked at my blood work and I told him I was on Synthroid, he kept saying, is there anyone in your family that has a low thyroid? And I said, no, not anyone that I knew. And he said, so then why were you diagnosed? Like he kept saying that, like, why were you diagnosed? Why? And I'm like, They did my blood work, told me I had it, told me to take this. Like, I don't know what to say, but, and I've been taking it for decades now. But for women like me who have been on thyroid medication for decades, and let's say when I go back to my doctor, because I took notes what you said, so I will have my antibodies checked. If I discover it was Hashimoto's this whole time, what would you recommend, like for someone like me that was on Synthroid for 20 years, which I cannot imagine was good for my body? Because you're right, I had a standing order at the hospital. Every 6 months they checked my blood and they adjusted my Synthroid accordingly. So if I do go in and say, oh, oops, it was Hashimoto's, now what? Right?
Yeah. So again, there's two things. There's your immune system attacking your thyroid, and that's the Hashimoto's. So we do want to address that by identifying your most common root causes. And then there's also the thyroid part, where the thyroid is not producing enough hormone. That's what your Synthroid is. Synthroid is pharmaceutical T4.
Yeah.
And so you actually do need that. I've talked to a lot of people, and their number one goal is to feel like themselves again. Number two goal is I want to get off my Synthroid. But if your thyroid is not producing T4, then Synthroid or levothyroxine is your life-saving medication. Like, it is giving you what your thyroid is not. So my view is number one goal, identify your root causes and then address them, and then keep checking your antibodies and keep checking your free T4 and your free T3, and also what's called the reverse T3. So I didn't talk about that one. When your thyroid produces T4, it's your body's job to convert that to T3. T3 is the key. T4 is like the blank. You go to a hardware store to get a duplicate key made and you get to pick out the key blank. So it's pretty or whatever. That's the T4. And then your body, like the key cutting thing, converts it to T3. Well, sometimes your body, God created it so wise, and the healing happens when you are at rest. Healing happens when you're sleeping. Healing happens when you're in that rest and digest stage. So in all of your body's God-given wisdom, like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on and we don't need more energy. We need more rest. So instead of converting that T4 to the ignition key, your body converts that T4 to the brakes. Like, no, you need to rest. You need to slow down. You need to heal. So I always want to see the reverse T3. That is the brake system. The higher that reverse T3 is the more my body is saying, please, Esther, give me a break. I need to heal. So I want to see the reverse T3.
Makes sense.
When you're, I think I'm breaking up. When your levels, your reverse T3, your free T4, your free T3, when those are all coming down into good levels, then you could talk to your doctor about reducing your medication.
Yeah, I don't know if I want it reversed, but I want it explained. Like, instead of just keep bumping me, if it's not working completely on its own and I need to figure out other ways to balance it or to support it, because just taking that isn't helping me stay healthy. Like, it's got to be the whole picture, right? That's kind of where I would like to have them, not just focusing on my medication. I just would like the whole body healing, right? The holistic whole body healing. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly, as soon as they told me that my thyroid was off, I had hypothyroid, and they gave me the Synthroid. But again, I was telling Cynthia before we got on here, I knew just from my own stuff I had learned prior, like, that's not the whole story. I need to get a full panel done, right? So I did. I just kept bugging and bugging and bugging until I found, I'm very, very lucky. I have a fantastic naturopath here who is thyroid. That's her specialty. And I went to see her and she's like, yeah, let's do this. And so boom, we found out everything. And she's really got me on a great protocol of supplements, and my thyroid is good now. So that part is all, and it's only been a few months and that's done, but my adrenals are shot. Like they're beyond. So I'm working on that next to see if I can get my energy back up and stop gaining weight and all the wonderful other things we'll talk about
Yep.
as far as um, symptoms. So
Right.
let's jump into that. So let's talk about the common symptoms because so many women are living with them and have no idea they're connected to a thyroid issue, let alone an autoimmune disease. So, what are some of the early signs and symptoms of Hashimoto's that often get overlooked?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, you're so right when you say so many women are dealing with it. I read one statistic and it said probably 90% of women over 40 have some sort of thyroid issue going on,
Right?
just
Wow.
It's
not diagnosed.
crazy. It's
But
crazy.
also, like you said, is it your thyroid? Is it your adrenals? Is it perimenopause? Like, what is causing this
Right?
fatigue and the weight gain? But those are two common things with hypothyroid, which Hashimoto's usually presents as hypothyroid. But let's go back to the ignition key. Like, if your cells don't have enough ignition keys, they're going to be slower. So,
Mhm.
what does slowness look in the various parts of the body? In your brain, if your brain is slowing down, that's going to look like depression. Hashimoto's and hypothyroid is one of the leading cause of depression. There's no antidepressant that's going to touch it because it's thyroid related. Um, so that is one thing that we look for is depression. Another thing of your brain slowing down would be brain fog. Like how many women over 40 are complaining about brain fog? Uh,
Mhm.
right? And then there's the metabolism. We all know if metabolism is slowing down, that looks like weight gain or a hard time losing weight. Like I'm doing everything that I used to be doing plus more, and I still can't. I can't make my body do what it used to do. So it could be that in your gut, if your gut is slowing down, that looks like constipation. If your hair is slowing down, that looks like thinning.
Thinning.
We just think of things slowing down. Um, your internal thermostat, if it's slowing down, it's like turning down. If you feel freezing cold all the time, might be your thyroid. So I kind of go back to that ignition key. But because the thyroid is needed for every single cell in your body, you could have two people with the exact same labs and maybe even the same history, but their symptoms are so different because of how their body is using those ignition keys. One of them might have like brain fog and feeling cold, the other one might have metabolism issues and like constipation, but it's the same root
Absolutely.
cause. Mhm.
Absolutely. I love that. That's well said. That's exactly that's it was the weight gain that made me look into things. Because again, like I've worked out my entire life, like right from very, very young age. I was always fit and I thought I ate healthy, but I didn't, right? Because what do you know what we were told is healthy? But anyway, it was that fact, and I couldn't work out, and I would just sleep for days. I couldn't come back, and it's like it was wrecked. And then I couldn't catch my breath when I'd work. I was like this kind of thing. And the trainer I was with not too long ago, she's like, "Are you okay?" Like, no. And then I found out shortly after, okay, it was Hashimoto's. First, I think I found out the thyroid first. But I'm like, okay, that explains it. Like, it didn't make sense to what was happening, right? Because I do eat very clean, very, very clean, and I've always been fit, and it just would for the past 2 years. Like, what the heck? But those symptoms that are really, really off are the ones you got to pay attention to. Like, this isn't right. Something's wrong here, right? So, sorry. Go ahead, Cynthia. You can pick over there.
Well, as you're talking, I'm going to change it up a bit because one thing that I had to come to terms with was my body was whispering about it long before it ever screamed, right? I ignored the symptoms for years because they slowly became my normal. The fatigue, the hair shedding, the cold hands and feet. In the summer, if I got overheated, my face looked like a tomato and I could not cool down. Like people were like, "Are you gonna die?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's just this is what I do." But one thing I want to say from Canada, we get a lot of false negative test results there. Like I know so many women that had, I know everyone's different, but the same, like I could look at their symptoms knowing after I was diagnosed what mine were, and I'm like, you got to get your thyroid tested because of this, and this. They would go in, their doctor would do whatever he did on the blood work, and then they would say, oh, I don't have low thyroid. I'm like, are you sure?
They were in
So
within the range.
that's my question. Like those false negative, like the thyroid, from what I've heard and experienced, is one of the hardest things to get that test right.
Yes. Yep. And a lot of that comes down to the quote normal labs based on a sick population.
Yeah.
So if the doctor only tests your TSH and then it's quote within normal, but it's at the top, it's above 3, but it's still below what they want, they're going to say, oh, everything's good. Because in the broken medical system, you're either sick or you're not. There's no gradient. There's no in between. You're either A or B. So if your lab is not above what they think it should be on the TSH, then clearly you're healthy as a horse, which is not true.
That's right. Yeah. And when you are, it drives me nuts. When you finally go beyond, you're sick. Like it's gone too far. If they hadn't done something when you're at the higher range, you might have been able to prevent some horrible chronic disease. Right. Anyway, okay.
Right. And I don't know what Canada is like. I know in the US you can bypass your doctor and you can order your own labs in most states. I think 47 out of the 50.
I don't think we can do that in Canada.
Yeah, I think
pretty
they
sure
control it more, and so you don't have that autonomy.
We do have functional medicine doctors now that can order labs, or certain holistic doctors that can order labs, but they have to have got their medical degree first and then decided to go into functional medicine or decide to go the holistic route, because only a medical doctor can order labs. So
so find somebody who can order the full thyroid panel, not just the TSH, and bug your doctor until you get it. Because if you feel like something is not right, if you feel like there is more to learn, there's more to learn. So
absolutely.
Keep pushing until you get your antibody levels, until you get your free T4. How much thyroid is my thyroid producing? How much hormone? Until you get your free T3, how much available T3 has been converted from T4, and until you get that reverse T3, like how much is that brake system on? Keep pushing.
You need the whole story.
We could all become hostile patients, right, Lorraine?
Well, I wear that badge of honor.
I wish I had it too, because clearly I have been too nice with my doctor for way too many years, right?
But don't beat yourself up for something you didn't know. Like don't carry that shame or that guilt. You didn't know.
Nope. But now you do.
Now I do.
Go get it
now
done.
It's my responsibility to be a hostile patient.
There you go.
And it seems to get worse the older you get. Because then, when you're younger, like if you're in your 20s, it's in your head. If you're in your 30s, then it's just because your life is so busy and hectic. If you're in your 40s, then it's probably perimenopause. If you're in your, you know what I mean? And then, so as you start going up the ladder, now everything, someone your age, it's normal. So that's it. I'm 63 and I went in for labs recently on the encouragement of Tracy. I got my TSH, my T4. I think I got my T3, but I can't find it. I did the best to I had to really, it was like pulling teeth to get her to order these for me. And I in no way am at optimal health right now. And I know it. I had a late menopause. I just recently finished that up at 61 and was getting all of these labs. And she's looking at my labs with these ranges that we've been talking about. And she says, you look great. You look great. And as you were saying earlier about that test where they included sick people, and that's where they got the ranges, That's basically what she's doing. She's saying at your age, compared to other people your age, you're doing great. And it's like, wait a minute, that's really not what I'm asking. I'm
No.
really not asking for you to compare me to someone else that's on 10 medications and, has all kinds of issues. I want to know for me. And so, speaking of feeling like yourself again, we're all talking about we used to feel a particular way, and now we're feeling this way, and it doesn't make sense to us. So I love that we're having this discussion about the mind and the body, because you were saying earlier about some of the triggers, and we were talking about some of the both physical and mental emotional triggers. And so I want to talk a little bit about women have been told and tend to say to themselves, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm overworked. Yet there are also something that you were saying about depression. You were talking about depression being one of those symptoms, yet you're not going to be treating it with depressive, antidepressants and things like that. So it is very vital for us to be speaking about the differences between the mental and emotional health of women, and they may be more than just being in that category of mental health right now. Maybe they have something physical going on as well. So can you talk a little bit about the emotional and cognitive shifts that may show up early that may be tied to the thyroid and Hashimoto's, and how women can start to discern between a traditional or typical event versus is something more going on with me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's no easy way to tell. There's an easy way to see if something's going on. If your, mood is flat, if things don't bring you as much joy and peace as they used to, if you're just feeling down, if your brain is really foggy, like those are all unfortunately very common. It's not normal. We know it's not normal. We're not designed to be that way. But then we have to dig into why. Is it a gut issue? We know that, when your microbiome, your probiotics and your prebiotics are off in your gut, it can cause depression. They actually have done experiments and injected crazy or brave people with I believe it's a toxin that some of the bacteria in the gut produce. And within 1 hour, they had depression that was visible on brain scans from the release of what one of our bacteria does in our gut. So are all of those brain symptoms related to your microbiome? I don't know. And those exact same symptoms could be the same symptoms that you have if you have hypothyroid. So how do you know? There's no way to say, oh, I'm really flat. I just don't love life anymore. Like, there's no easy way to say this is exactly what it is. Is it winter? Do you have seasonal affective disorder? There's a lot of things. So to tell somebody if they have depression, number one, don't accept it. And don't just settle for here's an antidepressant. Again, that's just a band-aid. That's the doctor saying, I don't know what caused this, but hopefully this helps it. Let's start to dig in and see, like, what else can we do? So on your own, if you're dealing with the brain fog and the depression, see if you can get in for labs. Ask for the TSH, ask for the full thyroid panel, ask for your vitamin D level, but then start working on other things. Get out in the sun first thing in the morning or when the sun comes up, if you can. We know that impacts your brain, it impacts mood. Start lifting. I know women are a little more, we don't like to lift weights very much, but we know that improves mood. And then, maybe read the book Super Gut and start working on your gut. Like maybe you have SIBO, which is a whole nother topic, but there are things that you can do yourself. So I guess my overall answer is, unfortunately, a lot of different things can cause the same symptom, which is the depression or the brain fog. And only you can see all of the pieces. Your doctor, your chiropractor, everybody, they're all trying to do their best helping you figure it out, but only you see all of it. And it's your job or it's your honor or however you want to describe it. But that's what you get to do, is put all those pieces together and figure out, okay, what can I do today to help myself?
Well,
So
I love that. I love that you said don't accept it.
Yeah.
Because if we can do anything, maybe that's the first thing we do. Let's not just accept the one fix it all, or the cliche advice of you're too old, or it's just that time of year, or
Right.
yada yada. The first thing you can do, don't accept it. The second thing you need to do some more research or exploration, as in your nutrition, your gut biome, more testing and labs. And I guess especially, Cynthia would know about this. You might want to interview some more doctors. You want to make sure that you have a team on your side, someone who's truly listening to you and helping you as best they can.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm thinking about my own situation. My first thing was to clean up my diet. So I want to know it's not my gut. It's not something I'm eating. It's not that kind of thing. So I clean that up first. And I felt a hell of a lot better just from doing that. But then things started to come back as stress and all the other things that made my Hashimoto's kick in. But at least when I went to my natural path, she's like, well, we don't have to worry about your food because your diet is perfect, right? So we were able to bypass going through all of that nonsense to see, is it this, is it that? So that was kind of nice. If you can just, again, like you say, if you are working out and you're tired, don't work out. So just go for a walk, do a nice stretch. Pay attention. They don't push. We gain weight. We think you got to work out harder. No, you're exact opposite, right?
Yep.
Stop, relax, rest, like you were saying. So, yeah, beautiful. All right. So, once you do have the diagnosis, the big question becomes, now what? All right. So, because there isn't a specific medication that treats Hashimoto's itself, as far as I know, and we certainly don't want to take an immune suppressing drug or steroids. Ugh. There's there absolutely are more effective natural ways to address this. So medications like Synthroid, which you've been talking about, can help the thyroid if it's your T4 that's off only. So, Esther, what have you done to naturally support your body so it can heal from Hashimoto's and thyroid issues? And what are the first practical steps you recommend other women take to finally have some clarity?
the first thing I did was figure out what are the root causes in general. There was really, I had to dig. um, and I came up with those. And when I compiled the list, I looked at the list and I was like, oh, I know my sleep must be part of this story because I wake up tired and I'm just longing for a nap. And then as soon as I wake up from my nap, I am longing for bedtime. That isn't, that's not right. And then I obviously know my stress is an issue. I can't remember if I was still working in the ER when I got my diagnosis or if I had quit, but I knew that stress was part of the problem. So I started working on those two things. I could have chosen diet like you did. Like there's a lot of places to start. You have to start with what you feel is the most approachable for you.
Exactly.
So whether that's, like I said, vitamin D, super easy, just get it through the mail. And I guess I shouldn't assume, but I think you can get it in Canada.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I take 4
Absolutely.
vitamin D with K a day. I take
No,
a lot
but
of it.
the lab, can you get the lab through the
Oh,
mail?
Oh,
oh,
I believe you can absolutely what is it called? Life. There was one called Life something, and you can do the blood work and send it
Okay.
off.
oh,
Yeah, my
okay.
natural path, she I have to pay for it. So it doesn't
Yeah.
go through OHIP. Like here we have OHIP, right? So we do have to pay for it, but it goes through Dynacare, I think it's called here. So yeah.
Okay. So let me give you just a quick list. I have an entire like hour webinar where I go over all of the triggers and the root causes. So obviously we're not going to do that here. But the most common ones are hormone changes, which you can't really control, puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, estrogen overload. You can control that. A lot of that is your skincare and the different toxins coming in that way. Iodine, both high and low, can be a trigger. And here's a caveat for iodine. There's very, very well done research on both sides of this iodine issue. Some saying that everybody needs more, some saying that everybody needs less. Iodine really is what we call an N of one. The only person who matters in this experiment is you. And so you need to experiment with iodine. Typically, for women with Hashimoto's, increasing iodine will make the Hashimoto's worse.
Yep.
If you have hypothyroidism without Hashimoto's, typically iodine will make it better. So that one's tricky. I already mentioned vitamin D. There's also food reactions like gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, lots of things like that. Environmental chemicals are another trigger. Stress, we talked about. Blood sugar issues, the lows are more stressful on the body than the highs. So a lot of women with Hashimoto's, they'll get hangry easy because of the blood sugar drop. So that might be something that you want to look at as a trigger. And then any type of infections. A lot of people have had Epstein-Barr virus and it's just latent somewhere in the body. So there's a lot of different things that we can look at. But when we're looking at those root causes, number one, we need to identify which ones are most likely the ones that we're dealing with. Now, there are some functional medicine practitioners who will do hundreds of dollars of tests. I prefer to go the common sense route first before we do that. We can do testing, not guessing. I have nothing wrong with that. But let's start with common sense. Like, okay, I'm lived indoors, person of color. I know my vitamin D isn't right. Let's start there, right?
Yep.
So, common sense. I know my stress is high. Common sense. You can do the testing later. Let's start with what do I think my root causes are and what is the easiest, most sustainable way that I can address that. And that is always what I'm going to recommend for the Hashimoto's, that autoimmune part and the thyroid part. Let's get your body working again.
Nice. Beautiful. That iodine, because I always took a lot of iodine and then I realized, oh, yeah, so I stopped. So, anyway, N of one, right? Absolutely. Love that. All right, so my next question is, do you believe that Hashimoto's can be fully reversed, or does it just kind of go into more of a hibernation mode? What do you think?
I believe your body is designed to heal. Your body is always working towards better health, and it's our job to enable that. For some people, they're going to do all they can, and that genetic component and maybe, a lifetime of leaky gut or stuff, they're going to make improvements, but they're always going to have some thyroid issues. Or maybe they found out that they have Hashimoto's after so much of their thyroid was destroyed that is not going to come back. So some people, they're going to make improvements, but they're not going to have remission. Whereas other people, they're going to make all these improvements. Their antibody levels are going to come down. The attack on their thyroid is going to be lessened or stop completely. Their thyroid is going to do some healing, which does take time, and they're going to be able to get off of their medications. They're going to be able to have a quote normal life. They're never going to be able to forget that this is part of their history and just go back to living like a common life and put tons of chemicals and processed foods and stress and things back into our life, because then you're going to have a problem again. But yes, remission is possible. And it is possible to say, I don't have Hashimoto's anymore. But you always have to be aware of that. For most people that I have worked with and that I have talked to, they get it down significantly. And they make a lot of improvements, but they still have Hashimoto's.
Right. Nice. Okay, thank you. Very, very good. Good answer. All right, so we are at the advocacy and taking back control stage here. So, another challenge women face is not knowing what to ask their doctors. So, you created a resource called 10 Thyroid Questions You Should Be Asking Your Doctor. So, can you explain to the listeners why these questions are so important?
Mhm. Yeah, we go to the doctor and like I don't know about you, but sometimes my brain freezes. Like I wanted to ask this, I wanted to ask this. And so I created the list to number one guide you on which are the most important questions. Like for Cynthia, 15 years ago, if she would have known to ask, why do I have hypothyroidism? Do I have Hashimoto's? That would have been a significant question, but nobody told her to ask. She didn't know. So that is one of the first questions on my list is why? And I talked to one doctor who used to work, quote, regular and now is functional. And he said that asking that first question might have put his defenses up. So, you do have to be firm and get your questions out, but you don't want to shut down the conversation right then either. So I have the 10 questions. The number one question is why? Why do I have hypothyroid? Did you check my antibodies? And then in that PDF, I explain what labs you want and what they mean.
Good.
Yep.
That's very, very good. And I just want to say quick too, I do know the doctors here, I was told, 'cause I'm in Canada, and my doctor straight up said, we don't order the T3 and all that because we don't know how to read it. Like we just don't. And like I've heard that so many times. It's like, all right, good enough. She said and my doctor's fantastic. She really is very cool. And she'll tell me, you need to go see a naturopath or somebody else because she's all into that natural way of doing things. But their hands are tied, unfortunately. So yeah, interesting. Okay. Sorry, Lorraine, you had some final thoughts?
Yeah, that's just so funny. Beware of the why question because you will get defined as a hostile patient because that's exactly what put me there. I was always going, well, why? Well, why? Well, explain it to me. Well, tell me how that doesn't make sense to
So
me.
funny.
So that's exactly how it starts.
Yeah, isn't that a Seinfeld episode? Elaine goes. Anyway, there, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I thought we were in the final thoughts episode. So
We are, right?
Yep.
I just wanted to thank you so much. This has been very enlightening because I didn't have a whole lot of information. And I'm sure that most women don't, even those who end up finding out that they have some type of thyroid problem or possibly Hashimoto. And who knows if I do. Thank goodness my daughter just purchased for my husband and I a functional medicine bundle, I guess. So I'm going to be answering questions and getting my full panel done here pretty quickly, which will be
Nice.
right on cue for the new video series that we're going to be doing. So I can't wait. I can't wait to find out what's going on. And I love that you were so clear and direct about a lot of these issues that women just don't know. They don't think of, the why am I tired all the time and my mood has changed and, things are different because the number one thing that you get from, especially from the doctor, and this is my personal experience, is that you go in there and you say, I used to be able to do this and now I can't. What's going on? And you'll either just get, oh, that's just the way it goes, or it has something to do with your cycle or menopause, or you're just old now and that's just the way it is. So I had a big argument with my doctor, who's also very good, and she's a DO, so she's supposed to be more holistic. And still, I'm like, she said, well, it's normal for someone your age. And I said, why? I mean, why does the number on my driver's license have anything to do with what's going on? There's obviously a reason more older people are going through this, there's a reason for it. There's an evolution of things that makes it more prevalent when you're older. So I want to know what that process is. And they either don't know, can't explain, or aren't allowed to explain, how you get to that point. And so this type of information is so helpful to women who are searching for answers about their health, about their state of mind, and about what might really be going on. And this encouragement to either find a doctor who will work with you or see a naturopath or a holistic doctor or a functional health medicine worker is really so important right now. So thank you so much for that. And it's really comforting to know that we don't have to wait for things to completely fall apart and get really bad before we start listening to our bodies and to our, being aware of our moods, because awareness is the very first step. Paying attention to yourself, paying attention. So thank you so much for your insights and all of your experience. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been an honor to share all of this information, and I hope it's been accessible. I know that when you're listening to all of this, you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot I need to learn, a lot I need to do. I hope that the listener and you guys don't get overwhelmed, because there's always hope. There's always something you can do. You just do the next thing.
Absolutely.
Well said.
So thank you, Esther, for being here. This conversation has been incredibly validating for me because I've lived with thyroid issues for as long as I have. You start to doubt your own experiences. You tell yourself you're fine, you're coping, you're just tired. But deep down, something isn't matching the level of your effort, right? So today's conversation reminds women like me that with long-term thyroid struggles, they often have a story behind them, and it's never too late to understand what that story is, the why. So thank you for helping women realize that they're not crazy, they're not dramatic, and they're not stuck. So your body is communicating, and once they know what it's saying, they finally get choices. So thank you for being here today, Esther.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Very nice. Okay, good. So as we all have been saying, your body is always talking to you. Those little nudges, those annoyances, those whispers, they all matter. Don't wait until something falls apart before you pay attention. Suffering doesn't have to be your story, and it definitely doesn't have to be your ending. My mom absolutely suffered with all of this, and she never got answers. But once you know what you're dealing with, you get your power back. You get options. You get direction. And genetics be damned, you get permission to do something different. So if you're listening and something inside of you is saying, wow, this is me. These are my symptoms. Oh, this sounds awfully familiar. Please don't ignore that. You deserve clarity, you deserve support, and you deserve to feel like yourself again. No matter what your genetics say, no matter what your past has looked like, your future is absolutely yours to shape. And my very new favorite saying from Chase Hughes says exactly that. Don't let the desires of your current self outweigh the needs of your future self. Think about that one. So if today's conversation gave you that little spark of clarity or hope, make sure you grab Esther's free guide, The 10 Thyroid Questions You Should Ask Your Doctor. Okay, you will find the link in the show notes for that and for her website and how to get in touch with her. Okay, thank you so much, Esther. I've absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And as always, you'll find all of our individual contact information as well in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who might also need that aha moment, and you might just change their life. So until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be happy, be healthy, and be kind.
Thanks for tuning in to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with anyone you think would benefit from the topics we're discussing. We'd love to hear from you. DM us with your thoughts, comments, or ideas for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the links in our bio if you'd like to connect with any of us or learn more about what we do. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.